Welcome, everyone. Welcome back, or welcome for the first time to our ongoing class with Dr. Shana Strauch Schick on women in rabbinic law and narrative. As a reminder to those joining us here on Zoom, I will be sending you an invitation to become a panelist. That does not obligate you to do anything. It does not take away any functionality from you. It will just give you more opportunities to engage and participate. So you'll be able to share your camera if you wish. You do not have to, but it's very appreciated to have some faces and see our classmates as we look around. And you'll also be able to control your own microphone, so you can mute and unmute yourself when we have those opportunities for participation. But we do ask that if you're not meaning to share your sound at the moment, please stay muted because we will hear things. And of course, you're also welcome to type questions, comments, etc. in the chat here on Zoom. If you're joining us on Facebook, you can put your questions and your comments in the comment section directly below this video. And I will do my best to take a peek now and then to make sure that we keep you part of the conversation. And without further ado, Dr. Schick, please.
Thank you so much. It's nice to see everyone again and be here. So the past 3 weeks, what we have done is we have shown, we saw different ways, different strategies that the Bavli employed to exempt or exclude women from mitzvot, that in Eretz Yisrael text we saw women were obligated in. So we saw, those 3 ways were to rephrase or re-articulate tradition, a Tannaitic tradition from the land of Israel, which originally was inclusive, to either add something or change it in order to rule in a non-inclusive way, to exempt women. We saw that where the Mishnah rules that women are exempt, the Bavli will go with that, accept it, bring a proof text, whereas the Eretz Yisrael text will challenge it, or at least contain a challenge in it. Now we're going to talk about the first strategy that I just mentioned in a passing, and that is where there is a debate, where there's 2 opinions in the Mishnah. The Bavli will go with the position which exempts women, and the Eretz Yisrael text will go with the one which includes women. But and the case we're going to look at today is the command of fruit to procreate. Now, why this case, however, it's not just important because it shows us one example of this pattern. We're also going to see in this sugya that the Bavli shows awareness of the more inclusive Eretz Yisrael position. We're going to see how the Bavli interacts with it and incorporates it, and comes to terms with this other view that did exist. And the way the Bavli does that is through narrative. It's through taking the Eretz Yisrael positions and putting it into a narrative of form. And we will see that. So I attached the sources for you. Hopefully today I will not have the tech troubles I was having last week. Okay. So there's a lot of sources. I'm sorry, I don't have the English translations. I didn't put them in, but I will translate for you. So the Mishnah, which is brought in the 6th parak, 6th chapter of Tractate Yevamot, the 6th Mishnah and 6th parak, says as follows: Lo yivatel adam mepiria v'rivia ela im kain yesh lo banim. So a person, and here, okay, good. Everyone has the sources. Okay, great. Thanks, Noah. So a person, interestingly, it says, a person may not, Adam means a human. And it's generally a gender neutral term. It stands for human. So a human should not desist from procreating unless he has children. I really just want to stress the language of the Mishnah is not a person must have two children. That's not what the Mishnah says. But the Mishnah says you can't stop having or stop trying to do the mitzvah of pruruvu, the command of procreation, unless you have children. And Beit Shammai omrim shnei zacharim. Beit Shammai said that means two boys. Beit Hillel omrim zachar unekeva. Whereas Beit Hillel says no, it's a boy and a girl. Shneimar, as it says, zachar unekeva baram. God created them, male and female. Now, I have to just mention that this formulation of the Mishnah, we kind of take it for granted that what it means is, you have to have a boy and a girl, in order to fulfill your command of a pruruvu. But I just want to mention, just to clarify this somewhat, that Rav Moshe Feinstein had a very, very innovative and yet just completely on the mark reading of this Mishnah. And what he says is that the mitzvah, the command can't be to have a children. It's not a person's power. We can't control if we have children or not. And that's really underscored by the words of the Mishnah. The Mishnah doesn't say you fulfill your obligation by having a boy and a girl or two boys or whatever. Let's say someone has 12 boys or 12 girls. They haven't done their mitzvahs. Rather, Reb Moshe says the language of the Mishnah is you don't stop doing the mitzvah until you have a boy and a girl, meaning the children is the way is kind of how you get your get out of jail free card, so to speak. That's how you get your pitor, your exemption from doing the mitzvah. And what the mitzvah is, he says, how does one fulfill their obligation in pruruvu, says Rav Moshe Feinstein, it's not the having the children. That's not in your power. What is it? It's the trying to have children, meaning it is, sexual relations within a marriage. So anyways, it's just very interesting. It's innovative, and yet it's, when you read the Mishnah, that's what it's saying. And it doesn't use that language of, Adam Yotze Yetidei Chovato Im Shnei Zacharim. You fulfill your obligation with two boys. Anyways, so getting back to the Mishnah, can't read that Mishnah and not mention that. So when do you get out of your exemption of pruruvu? Says Beit Shammai two boys, and Beit Hillel says two girls, because that's how when God created the world, it was male and female. Okay, and the end of Mishnah says Nasa Isha. The man gets married, v'shaha ima eser shanim, and he remains with her for 10 years, below yalada, and she did not give birth. Eino rashai livatel. He can't, not do the mitzvah. He can't desist from doing the mitzvah. Girsha, if he divorced her, mutera linaseh la'acher. She is allowed to marry someone else. Maybe you think, obviously it must be her fault. She's the one who can't have children if they don't have children. So maybe she wouldn't be allowed to marry someone else. It says Mishnah, no, she can marry someone else. And then her second husband is allowed to stay with her for 10 years also. And that we don't we restart the 10-year clock. And these are all this 10 years. It's actually, a lot of it is learned. It's not saying learned out, but it's like an asmachta. It's put onto the narrative of Abraham and Sarah, that he was in Israel for 10 years before they had children. Okay. So that is the first Mishnah. Then the Mishnah continues. Ha'ish mitzuva al pira v'rivya aval lo ha'isha. A man is commanded in procreation, but not a woman. So that is the view of Meglavas Noah. Then the Mishnah has another opinion. Rabbi Yochanan ben Roka Omer. Rabbi Yochanan ben Roka says al shnehem hu Omer v'yivarech otam Elokim v'amer lahem pru'uravu. Concerning both of them, it is said, God blessed them and told them, be fruitful, and both of you, it's written in the plural, pru uravu, both of you be fruitful and multiply. Okay, so we see this. So this Mishnah begins the divergent of opinions of Beit Shammai and Beit Hillel regarding when a person may cease procreating. And again, the beginning of the Mishnah was gender neutral, but then it was definitely more directed at the man and talking about what steps a man should take when a marriage is childless. And as that first section is directed solely at a man, they seem to assume that the obligation rests on the man alone. But then we see the final section of this Mishnah has two opinions about the matter. The first anonymous opinion, the Tanakama, which limits the obligation to men alone. But then the opinion of Rabbi Yochanan ben Baroka, who counters that based on the biblical verse, God commanded Otam, both of them, Adam and Chava, and Pru Uravu was said in the plural without signaling out Adam. And therefore the obligation was on both men and women equally. The Mishnah is, and as is the Mishnah's way, the Mishnah doesn't decide whom the halacha follows. Now, when we go to our Eretz Yisrael text that we've met before, let's go to the Tosefta. See that the Tosefta contains a similar discussion to the Mishnah regarding the command to revu. And it begins the same way, but then it takes a very clear direction, which follows a pattern we've seen before wherein men and women are equally obligated. So it starts out the same. A person may not desist from procreating unless they already have children. And now here it adds a little bit what counts as children. So it says, grandchildren, they count too. So if someone's child, God forbid, dies or is not able to, physically unable to have children, one may not desist. So in terms of just some interesting kind of text history here, there's a big debate among scholars. What comes first, the Mishnah or the Tosefta? Was the Mishnah, some say the Tosefta is like a rough draft, and the Mishnah was a more like edited, streamlined version. Others say no, first came the Mishnah, then came the Tosefta, and it like added on. Tosefta means to add, and here that it does kind of look like the Tosefta is maybe adding to what's in the Mishnah by clarifying what here is what counts as a children in regard to the obligation. Anyways, the Tosefta now continues, and now it starts a new discussion that isn't in the Mishnah. What does it say? Ha'ish ein rashai leishei below isha. A man is not allowed to live without a woman, without a wife, meaning he has to get married. Ve'isha ein rashai leishei shelo b'ish. And a woman may not live without a man. A woman has to get married too. A man is not allowed to drink a sterilizing potion to avoid having a children. And a woman may also not drink a sterilizing potion to not be able to have a children. A man may not marry a woman who's a sterile, an older woman, a woman, an elonit, someone who doesn't have like the physical parts to have children, or a child, or someone who's not able to have children. And a woman may not marry a eunuch. Rabbi Yehuda, okay, so, and Rabbi Yehuda says a person who sterilizes a man is chayav, but nikivot patur, whereas women, to make her sterile, that's not a biblical prohibition necessarily. So we see that although the first line is just like the Mishnah, the remainder of the Tosefta really equates men and women in all laws pertaining to procreation. Both are commanded to have children, are told to marry, are not allowed to sterilize themselves, and both are not allowed to marry one who's not able to conceive. Now, I should also know, oh, no, I didn't bring this in. Oh, well, maybe it's in the source I gave you. Interestingly, Tosefta 8:5, is that in the sources? Requires a man to divorce his wife after 10 years of marriage, if they don't have children, because perhaps, he did not merit to build, to being built through her. And Tosefta 8:6 also writes, if a woman a garsha, if he divorced her, she also should go and get remarried. Because maybe she just wasn't able to have children with her first husband, but maybe she'll be able to have children with her second husband. So that, obligation or in encouragement to get remarried is put on both men and women equally. So both men and women should remarry so that each may attempt to have children if they were unable to in their first marriage. So the Tosefta, it's very clear, men and women, so we see again, there's two opinions in the Mishnah. The Tosefta goes with the view that women are equally obligated. And really, it's, just every law is written parallel for the man and the woman. And this is likewise the view that's advanced in the Yerushalmi's discussion of this Mishnah that we saw. This Mishnah, the Yerushalmi Sugya, the Jerusalem Talmud, is comprised of several statements, which are all centered on the opinion of Rabbi Yochanan ben Beroka of the Mishnah, who said men and women are equally obligated. So let's just read this Gemara together, the Yerushalmi. So Rabbi Lazar b'shem Rabbi Yossi bar Zimra. Okay, this is an A. So Rabbi Lazar, that's the Yerushalmi, the Galilean way of saying Elazar. He said in the name of Rabbi Yossi, the son of Zimra, Tama dehein Tanya, Fu'uravu Malu et Haaret v'chivshua. So it's explaining what's the logic of the first opinion of the Mishnah, which says Ha'ish mitzuvah al piravi v'lo ha'isha. Why does the first opinion think only men are obligated and not women? So, because it says in the Torah, you shall be fruitful and multiply, fill the earth v'chivshua, and conquer it. V'chivshua kitiv. And so it says in the Torah, conquer it. Midachol lechvosh. Whose way is it to conquer? Ish lo isha. It's the man, not the woman. Parent pride moment. My son, when he learned this in school, said, "But women go to the army too." I won't say what his teacher said, but this is the view of this text, and that's the logic for the first opinion, which says only men are commanded, not women. However, so that's as much as the Yerushalmi talks about the first opinion. Because in B, the Yerushalmi continues, Rabbi Yirmiyah, Rabbi Abahu, Rabbi Yitzchak bar Merion, B'Shem Rabbi Chanina. So these three rabbis said in the name of Rabbi Chanina, Halacha ke Rabbi Yochanan ben Beroka. The law follows Rabbi Yochanan ben Beroka, i.e. the one who said both men and women are obligated in procreation. C. Rabbi Yaakov bar Achav, Rabbi Yaakov bar Idi, Rabbi Yitzchak bar Chakluha, B'Shem Rabbi Yudan Nisia. So these rabbis said in the name of Rabbi Yudan Nisia is Rabbi Yehuda, the prince. Im tovat linaseh hadin ima. If she wants to get divorced, the law is with her. Meaning, what does that do? Okay, and I'll just finish reading again. Rabbi Lazar b'Shem Rabbi Chanan halach Rabbi Yochanan ben Beroka. Again, Rabbi Lazar said the name of Rabbi Chanina. The law follows Rabbi Yochanan Beroka. And then Amarle Rabbi Bo bar Zibda. So Rabbi Bo said to bar Zibda, Ima hayita. I was with you, or I was with you. Lo atamart ella imatatuval and say hadinima. What he said, what Rabbi Yochanan said, he didn't say the lacha follows Rabbi Yochanan ben Beroka. What he said was, if she wants to get divorced, the law is with her. So what does this mean? So we see this Yerushalmi Sugya is comprised of basically two statements. The first one statement is the law follows Rabbi Yochanan ben Beroka, like pretty straightforward. And the other statement is that a woman has a right to divorce. Meaning, what does that mean? What's the connection? In a childless marriage, if she wants to leave the marriage, she has the right to sue for divorce. Why is that significant? Because normally the default person who may sue for divorce in Jewish law is the man. Only in certain circumstances may a woman sue for divorce. So there has to be a halachic reason for her to be able to sue for divorce. So if a woman is able to sue for divorce from a childless marriage, that is because she has an obligation to procreate. And we'll see that said explicitly in the Bavli, the connection between the two. But normally a woman is not able to file for divorce. I mean, the Mishnah in Ketuvot gives various reasons. If he's abusive, she may file for divorce. If he has some physical deformity that she didn't know about, she's also allowed to file for divorce. But normally the power of divorce is in the hands of the man, which I think we're all very aware of many of the problems that leads to with agunas and all that. But so it's not a light thing to say, im tovat lina, say if she wants to, like, I wouldn't say that it's a stronger word. It's not if she wants to get divorced. It's like if she sues for divorce, if she lay claims to, it means if she lay claims to be married. I mean, she wants to get remarried. I mean, she wants to sue for divorce. The law is with her. She may do so. So that's a strong statement to make, giving the woman the ability to sue for divorce. And it's very closely related to her having an obligation in a procreation. So you see this Yerushalmi, this is a very classic Yerushalmi sugya. It's not elaborate. It's really just comprised of straightforward statements by named Amoraim, named Talmudic sages. And basically, it's really going in the same direction we saw in the Tosefta, which is it's clear that in Eretz Yisrael, in the land of Israel, the law was women were seen as obligated in the command to procreate. Now, what that means, well, I mean, on one hand, you could say, well, maybe not being obligated in a procreation gives a woman more reproductive freedom. Is it, is it a good thing or a bad thing, to be obligated in a procreation? And so that's on the one hand, yeah, doesn't that give her more freedom? And of course, you could also say that with a lot of things. Yeah. And in fact, I don't know if I already shared this in previous class, but it just struck me something, that occurred to me recently where it was Sukkot. We had a very, very small sukkah. It was like a tiny, and I was with my family, and I was like, William was trying to get me and my daughter into it, and I, we were only going to eat in it, and we had a person there who, she was non-observant, and she said to me, "Why are you making your life harder? You don't have to do this. Why are you sitting in the sukkah? You are the lucky one. You don't have to do this." And she really, yeah, no, wow. I'm glad. I hope you're okay, Jessica. And thank you so much for sharing that. So yeah, I mean, on one hand, isn't it better to not be obligated in things? So what's the flip side? When you're not obligated in something, I'm glad. If it's something you value and someone doesn't have to do it, what is it saying about the person who doesn't have to do it? So that's just, so, and it's why when I told this relative, I didn't say, oh my gosh, you're right. Why am I like doing this to myself? I say, well, in religious community, if doing mitzvot is something we value, then I'm going to do it, and I'm going to want my daughter to do that because that says some, because we value it, and I don't want to kind of open up a can of worms here, but if it's something we value, then we should do it too. And I'll leave it at that. And so what's the flip side of saying, if a woman's not obligated in Pru'uruvu, but a man is, so then what does the woman become in some ways? She becomes, you say, exactly, instrumental in someone else's obligation and not like a part of it. So it's not a black and white thing. Like, yes, on one hand, it does allow for more reproductive freedom. On the other hand, it's also makes her a little instrumental in a man's obligation. So, it's like everything, it's not, it's not like black and white. And I think it's really multi-dimensional. It's a bigger conversation to have. What does it mean to not be obligated in something? If someone wants to add anything, please, I'd love to hear thoughts.
Unmute, Emily, go ahead.
I know you have a long class. If you don't want to discuss this, it can be for another time. But when you say that a woman can sue for divorce, does that mean she can initiate the get? And if so,
yes.
So, the husband cannot withhold it from her?
Yeah, meaning she goes to court and the court will say, yeah, you're right. You have to give her a divorce. And the court could force him. I mean, normally the divorce is given it has to be in the man, but she is allowed to initiate the divorce in this case. And the court would side with her and make the man give her the get. And that's a big deal, because we're going to see it becomes how big of a deal this is becomes more clear when we go to the Bavli's discussion on it. So just to sum this up here, sorry, it's in Hebrew. You see the Mishnah gives us two opinions. The Tanakhama is the first opinion of the Mishnah, which is women are not obligated in obligation of procreation. The Rabbi Yochanan ben Beroka, which says women are obligated in procreation. We saw the Tosefta treat men and women equally in this obligation. Both men and women are equally obligated. And the Yerushalmi also go with the view of Rabbi Yochanan ben Beroka that women are obligated and that women even have the ability to sue for divorce. Yes, Jennifer.
Hey, you're such a good teacher. I just really look forward. Hey, just a couple of basic questions. Sorry, I tend to move because I'm in this chair so long, so I'm like going like that. Oh my gosh, my rear end hurts. I wondered I should know this by now. Two questions. The Tosefta, because I hear it, I use it, all the time, but Tosefta, and then the second question is, as these opinions are accumulated, are we talking roughly about wherever they're sourced from, Tosefta, aside from Torah is Torah, but are they accumulated about the same time?
Okay, you know what? Thank you. I'm really glad you asked that. I'm sorry if I haven't mentioned that. Somewhere in my computer, I have a nice chart of all this. But the Mishnah, so the Mishnah, that is a corpus. That's the corpus of traditions that was compiled by Rabbi Huda Hanasi, Rabbi Huda the Prince,
right?
Like 220. I mean, really 218. Around that time.
Okay.
The Tosefta.
We're talking AD.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or CE.
I mean CE.
Yes.
What am I? Oh my gosh, CE.
No. Just
Sorry. Yes.
So I did my graduate work. I went to university and did my graduate work at YU. So I've only been in
yeah. No, I always use CE. Sorry.
Okay. No. So yeah. the common era, meaning, and those are tradition. The Mishnah, it includes traditions from rabbis who lived at the end of the Second Temple period. And the Second Temple was destroyed in the year 70. So Hillel and Shammai, who we saw Beit Hillel and Beit Shammai, they lived during the Herodian time, during King Herod's time. That's the end of the Second Temple, the beginning of the Common Era. And Rabbi Yehuda Hanasi lives 200 years later. So it's 200 years of additions that he piles. The Tosefta is a collection of traditions from the same rabbis. It's from the same period as the Mishnah. Now, whether the Mishnah came first or the Tosefta came first, that's a debate. But it's
all about the same time.
It's all at the same time. And they're all from Eretz Yisrael, the land of Israel. Rabbi Yehuda Hanasi, after the Bar Kokhba rebellion, Jews did live in the center of Israel, but after the Bar Kokhba rebellion in 238, they moved up north. And so, see Apori, Tiberia, those are all where this is happening. It's all where the action is.
Fascinating, yeah.
Tosefta, actually went there last week.
Yeah.
And then you have the Jerusalem Talmud, which is, I don't know why it's called the Jerusalem Talmud. They weren't living in Jerusalem. Jews weren't there anymore after the Bar Kokhba rebellion. It's so that is, the Talmud that is produced as a discussion on the Mishnah. And again, these rabbis, they are living in the land of Israel, talking to Tiberia, some are in Caesarea, really mostly up north. So we just did, so all these sources we just discussed, that represents what the law was in the land of Israel.
Okay.
The Bavli, so, and again, the Talmuds are these, these works that are produced on the Mishnah. The Yerushalmi, as we just saw, it stays much closer to the Mishnah. It really is generally, and we've seen, most of the Yerushalmis we've seen is really just addressing the Mishnah. Here it says straight out, who we follow. There's two opinions. We follow Rabbi Yochanan ben Beroka. And we go to the Bavli. Right. The Bavli is much more expansive than Yerushalmi, and largely because it went on for a longer time. It went on for 400 years than the Yerushalmi. Yeah. But this is what I really love about this Bavli we're going to look at. You could see that it clearly had the Yerushalmi, but it reworks it, adds, and both with its own point of view, and also just sets, many more years of, it has a lot more years of work of added years.
I got it. Thank you so much.
We'll see, thank you for asking. It's always, I think just knowing context and knowing when sources are is very helpful. And it's so often just not mentioned because rabbinic sources are very ahistorical. They don't make reference to time. There'll be a few things here and there, like it happens to mention a king they were, talking to. Whether they actually spoke to that king or not, it gives you some idea of the time that it's in, but it's very outside of history, which is part of the timelessness of it.
Yes.
But thank you for the question, and everyone always feel free to ask a question. So, moving to the Bavli, it begins really the same way. It asks. And just a little more clear, it adds more. So you'll see, it begins, Menahane Mile. From where do we know these words? Amar Vila Mishim Rabbi Lazar Rabbi Shimon, Amar Kra Umilu et ha'aretz v'chivshua. It says, fill the earth and conquer it. Ishtar kol lechvosh, and ishadar kol lechvosh. It's a man's way to conquer, it's not the woman. So this first line appears in the Yerushalmi. Here it just added that Aramaic question, from where do we know these words, whereas the Yerushalmi just went right into it. It has also a different attribution than did the Yerushalmi. It's not a major thing, but the same exact homily appears. And now it has a little, a Bavli kind of thing. It has some shakil of it. Ataria has now an analysis of it. It says, well, Adarabba, on the contrary, V'chivshua tarte mashma. V'chivshua and conquer is written in the plural. That implies both of them. Amar Reb Nachem bar Yitzchak, v'chivshua kitiv. Well, it's actually, even though it's in the plural, it's written in a singular way. So it's just like, it's a very, just in terms of like text to history here, you see very clear there's a Yerushalmi skeleton here that the Bavli had, and you see how they're added to it. They analyze it, they question it. Rav Nachman, he's a Babylonian sage, gives an answer to it. So they're not just regurgitating the Yerushalmi traditions. They're analyzing and asking it. And now Rav Yosef, he's another Babylonian Amora of the third generation. He brings another verse. He says, actually, I have a better verse to prove that only men are obligated, not women. Okay, and now, interestingly, it now brings another. So our first homily of Pru Revu v'Chivshuha, that was brought in the name of Rev Ilan, in the name of Rev Elazar b'Rebbe Shimon, and now brings another homily, which on the face of it seems very unrelated and is brought only because it's cited in the name of the same rabbi. So Amar Rabbi Ilai Mishum Rabbi Elazar b'Rebbe Shimon, Mutar lo la'adam l'shnot b'davar hashalom. A person's allowed to change what they say in order to make a peace, meaning you can lie in order to maintain a peace, so people don't fight. Okay, Shana Amar, as it says, and it brings a verse where Yosef's brothers, after Yaakov dies, tells him, our father said you should be nice to us. Now, we don't ever see in the Torah Yaakov telling the brothers to tell Yosef that. So this homily is saying they lied so that they wouldn't fight. So Yosef wouldn't harbor any resentment, for their attempt at murder and kidnapping. Now, in that same, yeah.
What did Rabbi Yosef say, though, in line number 3?
Oh, sorry. So he says, he brings another a verse. Sorry, I just skipped over that. It's Ani kel shakai pre ureve. I am God. Be fruitful and multiply, but it says it in the singular. Lo kamar pru urevu. It said pre ureve, which is the second person as singular, or the third person as singular. It writes it in the singular. So he finds a verse, and where is that from? Let me look. In his verse, a command that's from Bereshit, Lamed Hey, 35:11. Yeah, it's later on. I think it's God talking to Yaakov. So there it's written in the singular. And it says, so there we have it's in the singular, only man, not woman. So now we have this homily by by Rebbe La, in the name of Rebbe Elazar and son of Rebbe Shimon, who says you're allowed to lie to maintain peace. Debei Rebbe Shmuel Tana. Now in the house of Rebbe Yishmael, it was taught, and he is a Tana. Gadol HaShalom. How great is peace? Sh'afa Kadosh Baruch Hu Shinabo. Even God, changed his words to maintain peace. This is something we saw a few weeks ago in the Parsha. Sarah had said, when she heard the angel say she's going to have a baby, she said, my master, Abraham, is old. When God told Abraham, or the angel told Abraham what Sarah had said, the angel just said, Ba'ani zakanti. The angel told Abraham that Sarah said, I am old. So see, you're allowed to lie in order to maintain a peace. And specifically, it's interesting that's talking about marital peace. Now, why these are here, they just seem, on the face of it, why are these here? Because it's just giving us a bunch of homilies said in the name of this Rebbe La. You can just see it's the same rabbi. And sometimes the Gemara will do that. Once we say one statement in the name of a specific, and here's not just a rabbi, it's a specific transmission chain. Rabbi La in the name of Rabbi Elazar b'Rebbe Shimon. So that's a technical reason why this is here. But we're going to see this homily about lying for marital harmony is actually thematically related to a part that appears later on in the sugya. Okay, now there's one more homily.
Who is the Tana?
Sorry?
Who is the Tana here? Eli is a Tana?
No, he is an Amora.
So it's Rav Shimon who's the Amora, the Tana, is that it?
No, these are just Amoraim. They could say homilies
What you
too.
said before was a Tana.
The Tana is Rebbe Yishmael.
Right, okay.
And that's a school of Rebbe Yishmael, and he is a very important Tana. He and Rebbe Akiva have two competing schools during the Tanaitic period. Yeah, so there you see this real mixture of Tanaitic and Amoraic traditions. Okay. Now the Gemara gets into the halachic part of it. Itmar. It was said, Rabbi Yochanan, Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi. So we have Rabbi Yochanan and Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi. These are both prominent Amoraim, second generation from the land of Israel. So each of them said something. One of them said the law follows Rabbi Yochanan ben Beroka, that both men and women have an obligation. And one of them said, the other one said, the halacha is not like Rabbi Yochanan ben Beroka, meaning women are not obligated. And the implication is, we know they both said these things, but we don't know who said what. We just know they each said something, they each spoke about this, but we don't know how to align what they said. But we know that these two rabbis are associated with these two opinions. So now the Gemara says, in D, I guess, Tis Tayim, you actually can conclude to Rabbi Yochanan who damar ein halach, that it was Rabbi Yochanan who said that the law does not follow Rabbi Yochanan ben Beroka. And why can we conclude that? Diyati Rabbi Abahu ukamar mishmed Rabbi Yochanan halacha v'hadirinu Rabbi Ami Rabbi Asi apai. So what does that mean? So one time Rabbi Abahu, he is a student of Rabbi Yochanan. He lives in Eretz Yisrael in Caesarea. And he said that he heard in the name of Rabbi Yochanan that the law is like Rabbi Yochanan ben Beroka. And then two other rabbis, Rabbi Ami and Rabbi Asi, turn their faces away from him to show that they don't agree. And then the next line said that some say it was, other rabbis, that it was Rabbi Chia bar Abba who said the law follows Rabbi Yochanan ben Beroka, and Rabbi Ami and Asi turned their head away from him. Okay. And it goes off about that, who's the one who said it and who they turned their face away from. So we see that on the one hand, the tradition says that Rabbi Yochanan, and who's Rabbi Yochanan? This is Rabbi Yochanan ben Nafacha, the famous Rabbi Yochanan. He is one of the most prominent sages in the land of Israel. And when he's often quoted in the Bavli as being the decider of halacha. There's often you will find in the Bavli there's a few opinions being said, and then the Bavli will say, says Rabbi Yochanan, these are the words of Rabbi X, Aval Amru Chachamim, but the sages say the halacha is Y. So Rabbi Yochanan, it really matters who Rabbi Yochanan says the halacha follows, because he often decides the halacha. So so indeed, the Sugya wants to say that Rabbi Yochanan did not follow Rabbi Yochanan ben Beroka. And the thing is, we have a story where, on the one hand, one rabbi saying that Rabbi Yochanan did follow Rabbi Yochanan ben Beroka. It's Rabbi Yochanan ben Nafacha. I mean, we usually just refer to him as Rabbi Yochanan. He's always known as Rabbi Yochanan, but he's Rabbi Yochanan ben Nafacha. That's actually like what his name is, I think, like a blower, blacksmith or something. But he's a Rabbi Yochanan you always hear about, the Rabbi Yochanan, Reish Lakish and Rabbi Yochanan.
So he's a Tana.
No, he's an Amora. Yeah, people get confused with Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai. This is not the same Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai, he's the famous Tana who has to be smuggled out of Jerusalem in a coffin because he's living during the time of the second temple when the zealots won't let anyone leave the city. That's another Rabbi Yochanan. people can confuse this all the time. And people have been like learning for many years can confuse the two of them. There's Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai. Reish Lakish and Rabbi Yochanan are second generation. Yeah. It's true. I guess it's a popular name. Reish Lakish and Rabbi Yochanan are second generation Amoraim.
Okay.
They're not Tanaim. So Rabbi Yochanan decided
Amorite in Israel, Eretz Yisrael.
Yes. Eretz Yisrael Amoraim. So he often decides the halacha. So on one hand, we have, a tradition saying that somebody, either Rabbi Abahu or Rabbi Chia bar Abba, said that Rabbi Yochanan held like Rabbi Yochanan ben Beroka, which would fit with what we saw in the Yerushalmi and the Tosefta. But then reports the Bavli, and this is in Aramaic, significant, that these other rabbis don't agree with it. So we see on one hand, the Bavli does record, that the Bavli records the Eretz Yisrael view. It has Rabbi Yochanan saying the law follows Rabbi Yochanan ben Beroka. Then what does the Bavli do? It brings a story where other rabbis disagreed with that and said, no, that they turned their faces away when that was said. And as if to say, no, that can't be. And now, moving on, it tries to further prove that Rabbi Yochanan could not have held like Rabbi Yochanan ben Beroka by again bringing anecdotes which seems to show he actually did hold like Rabbi Yochanan ben Beroka. So Itashma and Iwi. So it asks, "My havi Allah." So what? So what do we do? So what's reached about the issue? Did Rabbi Yochanan hold like that women are obligated or not? So Tashma, come and listen. Amar Rav Acha bar Chanina, Amar Rav Abahu, Amar Rav Asi. So again, we have this chain of tradition. Rav Acha said that Rabbi Abahu said that Rav Asi said, Uvda hava kamed Rabbi Yochanan, Beknishta de Caesarea. So there was an incident that came before Rabbi Yochanan in the Kenishta, the Beit Knesset, a shul, a synagogue in Caesarea. So, and what's the incident? It's clear that a woman who wanted to initiate a divorce after being in a childless marriage. V'amar, and he says, Yotzi v'yitain ketubah. Give her, send her out of this marriage and give her ketubah. So this anecdote totally fits with what we saw in the Yerushalmi. The law follows Rabbi Yochanan ben Beroka, and women have the right to sue for divorce. So, and that's what the Bible here says. If you would think she's not commanded to have children, ketubah mayavite. Why then are we giving her ketubah? If she's not commanded to procreate, she wouldn't be able to initiate this divorce. So it seems like Rabbi Yochanan actually does follow the opinion that women are obligated. What does the Bavli do? It says, no, you misunderstood. Dilma viva'a mechama ta'ana. Maybe he allowed her to get divorced because she came with another claim. So says the Bavli, don't think that Rabbi Yochanan allowing her to get divorced is because he thinks women are obligated in procreation. That's not it. It was, she had another claim, and that's why he allowed the divorce. And now we have two anecdotes which further this. So, okay, so just to kind of keep everything straight here, we have, on one hand, we have a clear tradition which said someone held that the law follows Rabbi Yochanan ben Beroka, that women are obligated. And then we have an anecdote which has either Rabbi Abahu or Rabbi Chanina saying that that's how Rabbi Yochanan, the prominent Eretz Yisrael sage, that's how he held. That even brings us a story where he allows women to initiate a divorce, which conforms with the Eretz Yisrael view. But in both of these cases, we see how the Bavli negate it. Did he hold like Rabbi Yochanan ben even though it seems that he held ben like Rabbi Yochanan ben Beroka? No, says the Bavli. Two other rabbis said he never said that, and they turned away their faces when that was said. And regarding the story where I allowed a woman to sue for divorce, no, it's not. Says the Bavli, it's not because he thinks women are obligated. It's because she had another reason. So even though Rabbi Yochanan following the women are obligated position is really corroborated by the Yerushalmi and the Tosefta, and therefore was in all likelihood the Eretz Yisrael view, and is therefore very possible that's how he held. We see how the Bavli rejects that and tries to say otherwise and tries to reinterprets him and says no, him allowing for that divorce was for other reasons. And additional support that Rabbi Yochanan does not follow the opinion of Rabbi Yochanan ben Beroka is now furthered by two anecdotes that are now discussed about women seeking divorce. So this is now an E. So Tash, this one, sorry. Yeah, this is now an F. It's like a woman that came before Rabbi Ami. Amrale, and she said to him, Hab li ketuba, give me my ketuba. Meaning, again, the case is a woman who's in a childless marriage. She wants to get divorced so she can get remarried and try to have children. And she goes to him and says, give me my ketuba. What does he say to her? Amarla, zeal. No, go. Lo mifkadat. You're not commanded. Meaning, you don't have a right to sue for divorce because you don't have an obligation in procreation. So here, this is what I talking before. When we see that the Yerushalmi allows her to get divorced, that's not something that should be taken for a grant, because here the Bavli makes that clear. If you're not commanded in Peruvu, you don't have a claim to get divorced. But then what does she say? Amrale. But she says to him, Misibo dila, my tihave Allah tahach itata. She says to him, well, what will become of a woman like me when I'm old? Meaning, if you don't let me have children, no one's going to take care of me when I'm old. I'll be alone. Amarni says, kiha vadai kafinan. In this case, we definitely then compel the divorce. So says, yeah, you're right, you could get divorced. And again, we have another anecdote. Haid ate the comments Rav Nachman, a woman came before Rav Nachman. Amarla, and again, she says, I've been married, I don't have children, I want to get divorced. And again, Amarla, he says to her, Lo mifkadat, you're not commanded. You have no grounds here. You can't get divorced. And Amarla, and she says to him, Lo bayach, itza chutcha liyada mara lekavura. She says, I need a daf and a shovel to dig my own grave. Meaning, I'll have no one to take care of me. But Jewish mother guilt, you can just hear her saying that in Yiddish. So then again, he says, Amar, you're right, kiha vadai kafinan, you're right. In this case, we certainly compel the marriage. So what do we have here? So again, why are these two anecdotes here in F and G? On the face of it, they're here to show that Rabbi Yochanan could allow for a divorce and not hold women are obligated. So that's, the immediate reason why they're here. Like, don't think just because Rabbi Yochanan allowed that woman to get divorced in Caesarea, it's because he held that women are obligated in procreation. We see here two cases where women aren't obligated in procreation, and yet they allowed the divorce for other reasons. So that's just the first thing that we see here. We also see the very close connection between a woman's right to sue for divorce and her being obligated in procreation. She's only able to sue for divorce in a case of a childless marriage if she has an obligation. Otherwise, you see, these rabbis wouldn't let it. Now, what's interesting is that we see in these cases that ultimately they are following the Eretz Yisrael rule, because ultimately they let these women get divorced. However, it's presented as ad hoc remedies to specific cases, and not because it's a general rule. Now, what we see is the Eretz Yisrael rule. It actually does end up being applied here, but it really is confined to a specific case for a different reason. Now, so a few little time left. Sorry, I see a comment. No. Echoes, we're going to see further echoes of an Eretz Yisrael traditions in this next anecdote. Now, if you see here, I put in very small print the first line because it's not in the manuscripts. And it's about this woman, Yehudit, who had very hard pregnancies and deliveries. Now, added in the printed edition is Yehuda v'Chizkiah tu'umim hayu, that Yehuda and Chizkiah were twins. Shiva, one was born at the end of the 9th month. One was born at the end of the 7th month. So I don't know if that's possible to have twins born 2 months apart. Why this line would have been added, it might just explain what was so bad about her pregnancies. Yeah, someone have a question? Wait, can you unmute yourself?
I'm not finding this on our sheets. I'm just maybe a little lost. Is it on our sheets?
Maybe, I don't know if I put it in. So it's here on the PowerPoint.
I'm going to take a picture.
Yeah, I will send you. I had a few versions of this, so maybe I didn't send it. Okay, so what's the story? So first it says she had like twins 2 months apart. Yehudit Bitu de Rebbe Chia, Havaled Sar Leda. So Yehudit, the wife of Rebbe Chia, had very agonizing births. So what'd she do? Shana Mana. Now, literally that means she changed her mien, her form. So some say what Rashi says, it means she changed her clothing. So he wouldn't recognize her. I actually saw a very interesting read of this. Is Shana mean can mean a gender. Like she didn't just disguise herself in other people's clothing, in another woman's clothing. She disguised herself to look like a man. So he wouldn't recognize it. Then Atya Lekame de Rebbe Chia. Then she went before Rebbe Chia. So either way, she disguised herself so he wouldn't know it was his wife. And Amra, then she went to Rebbe Chia, her husband, and she said to him, Itita mifkada periya v'rivya, is a woman obligated in procreation? Amarla, he said to her, no. So what'd she do? Azla ashtes sama de akarta. She went and she drank a sterilizing potion. The soap iglai milta. At the end of it, the matter was revealed. He realized what his wife had done. Amarla, and he said to her, if only you had born to me another womb full. I mean, oh shoot, I would have had more children. The Marmar, because the master said, his master said that, or someone said, Yehuda and Chizkiah were twin brothers, and Pazi and Tavi were twin sisters, meaning those were their children. Now, this is that reference to the Sama de Akarta, the sterilizing potion, should remind everyone of something. We saw that was mentioned in the Tosefta. The Tosefta said straight out, a man and a woman are not allowed to drink a sterilizing potion. So in the Tosefta, a very clear link is made between if you're obligated in procreation, you're not allowed to drink a sterilizing potion. So the Bavli is really the mirror of that. If those two go together, then if someone is not obligated in procreation, then she is allowed to drink a sterilizing potion. So her action is a direct consequence of her not being obligated in procreation, because we saw in the Tosefta that the two go together. Now, again, in the immediate context of the sugya, this anecdote proves the point that women aren't obligated in revu. Women are not obligated in procreation. And yes, it has, and yes, it's a story, but in the immediate context of sugya, that's its goal. See, women aren't obligated in revu, and as reflected in this story. I have so much to say, and
This is crazy.
yeah. Now, I just want to say right now, because while it's all in our head, if you recall, we have the beginning of our sugya. So what does it say about her? She was Shana Shane Mana. She changed her form. She changed herself. Now that language should also be familiar to everyone. If you remember that homily in the beginning, what did he say? Mutar Adam lishnot bidavar. Person can change their words for peace. And Gadol Shalom, how great is peace? HaKadosh Baruch Hu shinabo. For even God changed words to maintain peace. And what peace is? It's not just any peace. This is marital harmony. So now Yehudi's actions, she does the same thing. You can see it clearly here. How her Shana Mana, and it's recalling that same language that appeared in the beginning of the sugya. Now, how do we interpret her actions? Maybe it's she changed herself for her own peace. She was having these horrible pregnancies. Or is she a perversion of this homily? She changed something, and it created a marital discord. And it's also honestly really hard to know who we're supposed to feel bad for. On the one hand, it begins, we feel bad for her. She's sarleda, she's these horrible pregnancies. But then again, he gets the last word. He says, oh, I wish, I had at least another child. And it's interesting. There's, one other, well, we'll do this next time. There's another anecdote where Yehudi appears by name, and it's a very similar one. And again, it's where she's trying to get out of a pregnancy in the context of the halacha of the sugya. Now, I'll just, end right now, and then we'll continue with this next week, is that we see in this sugya, and you can see here, almost all, so in the Eretz Yisrael text we saw, the Tosefta Yerushalmi, we have halachot. We have the Yerushalmi saying, a woman's allowed to get divorced. No one can drink a sterilizing potion. So they appear as like short halachic statements. In the Bavli, we actually don't have any halachic statements. What do we have? Stories. And within all of these stories we saw, we actually did see the Eretz Yisrael rule appear in the context of a story. So we have stories of a woman going to certain rabbis to ask for a divorce. He says no. And then what does she do? She points out the problem with saying no. And these stories are with the woman asking for divorce. What do these stories accomplish? On the one hand, as I said, the immediate goal was to show, you can allow women to get divorced and not hold that women are obligated. What do these stories also accomplish? They really poke a hole in the Bavli's approach. They show what are the possible problems that could arise if a woman is not obligated in Pru. So what are some possible problems? It could cause problems for women. If women aren't obligated in Pru, then they'll have no one to take care of them in their old age. And it's not uncommon for the Bavli to voice a critique in the mouth of a non-rabbi and other. In this case, the other is these women coming to court. Oh, thank you so much. Yeah, I know we're going over time, so we should stop. And I will repeat this again. I just wanted to mention it while we're all here. So it's the women saying, if women aren't obligated, that will cause problems in our old age. No one will take care of us. So what do? You're right. And they end up actually holding like the Eretz Yisrael rule. You can get a divorce in this case. And what does Yehudit do? She actually, maybe ironically, is showing that if you don't obligate women, there can even be problems not for only women, even for men. Because what can happen if a woman is not obligated? There's nothing to stop her from sterilizing herself. The story of Yehudi is showing the problems that could arise if you don't equally obligate men and women. Yeah, it can have problems for the women, as the story of the woman wanting to get divorced show, but Yehudi shows it can even cause problems for men. Yeah. Jennifer, you have a question?
Hey, yeah, I just wondered, it seems like, thank you. It just seems also that when the Bavli is, to a novice like me, so must correct me, when the Bavli is stating its exceptions, it's not as generic, I guess, as the Yerushalmi. It's actually, instead of quoting other halakha or anything, it's much more life-oriented. Look, in real life, this could really happen. Would that be in general accurate?
Well, that's a great question.
Or it just depends, you know.
Yes, I will send the text. You know, next time I will bring all the sources. That is what narratives really do.
Okay.
Narratives serve the function of showing there's a law, and the Bavli certainly does have halachic statements, this and this, but it also contains narratives, by the way, as does the Mishnah and the Yerushalmi. And in all places, what do stories do? Narratives serve the purpose of showing how do people interact with the law. You can have the law, you can say women aren't obligated, but these narratives show, and it's, these are the rabbis making these narratives.
Real life consequences.
Well, how does it actually work in real life?
Yeah.
And I think it shows a real self-awareness of both, you'd say, the pitfalls of the approach, but also it's showing, we know about the Eretz Yisrael position. And it's a way to give a voice to the other position. Now, it still only does it as an ad hoc remedy, specific cases, but it is nonetheless giving that voice to the Eretz Yisrael view. So that's what I think is what it's really significant about this sugya, to show they were aware of the Eretz Yisrael view, and they even can attend with it, showing we do have some problems with the approach that we're having. And we will even be willing to take the Eretz Yisrael view, not on a global level, to say women are always obligated, women can always initiate divorce, but we will allow it. And so we'll continue with this next.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you so much. Sorry to go over time, but it just
not at all.
Thank you all. Have a happy Thanksgiving.
Oh, you too, if you're celebrating.
And a Chodesh Tov.
Chodesh Tov.
Kislev.
Yes.
Thank you very much. This was very, very interesting. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Really wonderful.
And
thank you, Dr. Schick, as always. This was
so much.
Fascinating. And I particularly love anywhere that we see a sociological or practical argument find place in the world of religious law. That's particularly fascinating for me. And thank you everyone for your participation in our learning community. As always, it really enhances the experience.
Thank you.
Have a wonderful Thanksgiving, and
we'll come back to this next week.
Yes. Look forward to learning with you again very soon.